So you're trying to quickly get a handle on what really matters, right? To sort of cut through all the noise and understand the core of something. That's pretty much what we do here. We take the essential info and really dive deep. Today, our focus is on what companies are really looking for when they hire a compliance manager. We've got this great resource from Talent Lift. It outlines some example interview questions. And our mission really is to figure out what key abilities these questions are trying to uncover. We're talking about the ability to, well, not just know the regulations, but to actively make sure a company follows them. And, spotting risks before they blow up, setting up good operational guidelines, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and what's interesting when you look at these questions uh, is how they reveal just how many hats a compliance manager wears. It's
Yeah.
so much more than just like reciting rules. It's showing you can actually apply that knowledge, navigate tricky situations. So for anyone thinking about this career or maybe hiring for it, or even if you're just curious about how businesses stay on the straight and narrow, these questions, they paint a surprisingly clear picture of what's actually valued.
Okay, good point. Let's start with the situational interview questions then. These are the ones where they give candidates these hypothetical scenarios, yeah, to see how they'd react. Here's a classic example. You discover some irregularities related to regulatory compliance through your monitoring. How would you handle this? And what steps would you take for future compliance? Seems like that one gets right to the heart of their problem-solving approach, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It goes way beyond just asking, can you spot a problem?
Mm-hmm.
It digs into their actual method for dealing with it, comprehensively.
Hmm.
What really stands out is the expectation that they won't just fix the immediate thing, but they'll also put measures in place to stop it happening again, preventative stuff. And if you think about the bigger picture, with regulations changing so fast these days, well, just reacting isn't good enough anymore. Companies really need compliance managers who can build resilient systems.
That makes sense. Here's another situational one that caught my eye. Your team is struggling to keep up with new compliance regulations. How would you prioritize tasks and allocate resources effectively? This feels like it tests their leadership and, well, organizational chops in a very real-world way.
Yeah, that brings up a really crucial point about leadership within compliance. It's not just about you understanding the rules yourself. It's also about guiding your team, supporting them through the changes. So their answer should show they can assess the impact of new regs, figure out what's most critical, and then allocate resources, whether that's training, tech, people, in a way that, minimizes disruption but keeps everyone compliant. Often what sets the strong candidates apart is they don't just manage the chaos, they actually create a sustainable way to handle ongoing change.
Right, a process. We also see this very relevant question about a customer data breach complaint. How would you handle the complaint and take action to prevent future breaches?
Mhm.
With data sensitivity being such a huge thing now, this feels especially critical.
Precisely. Yeah, this one really probes their grasp of reputational risk in, well, the digital age. A single breach can just snowball, can it?
Yeah.
Affect customer loyalty, brand image. So having a solid prevention strategy and a clear response plan, it's just non-negotiable for businesses today. It's not just about ticking boxes on some compliance list. It's fundamentally about protecting the trust customers have in you.
Good point. The Talent Lift resource also mentions situational questions about handling regulator concerns during an audit and also navigating conflicts between, say, business goals and the regulations. Those feel like they'd really test someone's nerve under pressure.
Oh, for sure. The audit question is key because it shows how they react to that external scrutiny.
Right.
It's not just about having everything perfect beforehand, but showing transparency, being cooperative, and importantly, being able to make changes based on the feedback you get. But that conflict of interest question, that really gets to the core of the compliance manager's role as, like, the ethical compass for the company. Their answer needs to show they can find solutions that work for both the business and the rules, not just pick one side.
Okay, so the main takeaway from these situational questions, it seems like companies aren't just after someone who knows the rule book. They want someone who can apply that knowledge strategically, solve problems well, and make sound judgments when things get complicated. Right. Now let's maybe pivot to the soft skills interview questions. These are less about specific rules and more about the interpersonal stuff, the organizational skills that are crucial for the job.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the clear recognition that even if you know every regulation inside out, that knowledge isn't much use if you can't effectively implement it and communicate it across the company. A compliance manager has to be a strong communicator, a decent negotiator, good at building bridges between departments. These soft skills are, honestly, the engine that makes a compliance program actually work.
Definitely. One of these questions asks, how do you manage your workload when you have multiple priorities competing for your attention? That immediately points to needing exceptional organizational skills in this field, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Compliance work often means juggling tons of deadlines, different projects, regulatory demands all at once.
Yeah.
A strong candidate needs to show they have a clear way to prioritize, maybe using a risk-based approach or something similar, and manage their time well. It should probably also show they know when to, escalate things or ask for help if the workload gets too much.
Yeah, knowing your limits. Another soft skill question is, tell me about a time when you had to communicate a difficult message to someone. How did you handle it? This really highlights how vital, clear, maybe even empathetic communication is in compliance.
Exactly right. Compliance often means delivering news people don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Could be telling a team about a new policy they hate or addressing someone about non-compliance.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate clearly, directly, but also with some empathy. That's crucial for getting people on board and keeping relationships positive, even with tough messages.
Yeah.
Often what makes a candidate stand out is their ability to tailor that message to the audience and really explain the why behind it.
Makes sense. The soft skills section also touches on things like conflict resolution, adapting quickly to new processes, staying organized. It's pretty clear a compliance manager needs to be flexible and good with people.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture again, these soft skills,
Yeah.
they're what let a compliance manager actually be an effective change agent in the company. They need to influence behavior, navigate maybe some internal politics, build that culture of compliance. Without those skills, even the most perfectly written policies can just fall flat when you try to implement them.
Okay, good points. Let's move on then to the role-specific interview questions. These seem to dig right into the candidate's actual experience and understanding of the compliance job itself. A really fundamental one here is, how do you keep abreast of changes and updates to regulatory compliance requirements? Given how regulations are always evolving, this feels like a critical thing to know.
Oh, definitely. This question really probes their commitment to continuous learning. The regulatory landscape is just constantly shifting, isn't it? So a strong candidate will show they're proactive about staying informed. That could mean subscribing to industry newsletters, being active in professional groups, attending webinars, conferences, and also having internal processes to make sure relevant updates get shared within the company.
Right, sharing the knowledge, another key role-specific one. Can you explain the process for investigating and resolving compliance violations in the workplace? This gets into the real nuts and bolts of dealing with breaches when they happen.
Yes, this shows if they understand due process, the steps for a thorough, impartial investigation, and the importance of keeping meticulous records. Documentation is huge. Their answer should probably also mention implementing appropriate disciplinary actions if needed. And, crucially, learning from what went wrong to stop it happening again.
Learning from mistakes, yeah. The resource also lists questions about dealing with non-compliant behavior directly, prioritizing ongoing compliance initiatives, and advising on, say, expanding into international markets. These really show the sheer variety of things a compliance manager might face.
Exactly. Taken together, these questions assess the breadth and depth of their practical compliance experience. They need to show not just how they've handled specific things in the past, but also how they think strategically about managing compliance programs long term. And especially for international expansion, their grasp of navigating really diverse regulatory environments. That's complex stuff.
Definitely. Okay, finally, Talent Lift also emphasizes the STAR interview questions. Just as a quick reminder, STAR stands for Situation, Task, Action, and Result. So these questions ask candidates for specific examples from their past using that STAR framework. Like, tell me about a time you faced a compliance issue, situation, what you had to do, task, what you actually did, action, and what happened, result. What makes the STAR method so useful for assessing compliance people?
Well, what's so insightful about STAR is that it pushes for concrete behavioral evidence, evidence of how they actually performed in relevant situations. Instead of just getting theoretical answers about what they would do, you get tangible examples of how they have navigated challenges, made decisions, achieved results in the past, which, let's be honest, is a much more reliable way to predict how they'll behave in the future, isn't it?
Yeah, past behavior is a good indicator. So, whether it's about a past issue they fixed, a successful project they led, maybe a training program they built, or dealing with organizational noncompliance, or even handling a regulatory audit, the STAR method really helps dig out those specific, revealing experiences.
Exactly. By focusing on those specifics, the situation, what they did, and crucially, the outcome star, lets interviewers really assess their problem solving, their initiative, their collaboration skills, and the actual impact their actions had on the company's compliance.
Right.
That result part is so important because it shows their effectiveness in, actually driving positive change.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up this deep dive on compliance manager interview questions, it's really clear that companies are looking for quite a well rounded individual. They need that strong foundation in the regulations, yes, but also sharp problem solving risk management skills, excellent communication and people skills, and a proven track record of tackling compliance challenges effectively.
Right. And connecting this back to you, the listener, understanding these questions gives you a really comprehensive view, not just of the tasks involved, but the essential qualities, the experiences that really make someone successful in this vital role. It really highlights how proactive and strategic compliance needs to be for a company's long-term health and, well, ethical standing.
That definitely leaves us with something to think about based on the kinds of questions being asked. What does this signal about the biggest priorities and maybe the evolving challenges for businesses trying to stay compliant today? And, what other areas might we need to explore to get an even fuller picture of compliance management in today's world? Something to mull over.